Welcome back, and welcome to Learning Path 2. In this learning path, we are going to introduce you to the declarative agents and how to implement them. We're going to start with the first module. And the agenda for this module, where we are going to dig a little bit deeper into declarative agents and discuss the custom knowledge, the introductions, the instructions, the grounding of your data, and the actions for your agent. Our learning objectives are going to be two. First, we are going to evaluate whether a declarative agent is an appropriate extension or appropriate to extend your Microsoft 365 Copilot scenario. And we are going to also look at the components of a declarative agent. So we're going to work together to create an agent that will run on Microsoft 365 Copilot. As we look at the very first learning path, declarative agents are conversational AIs, so that they interact with the users. We see this chat interface for this configuration. They can answer specific questions, provide information. They can also perform tasks. We saw the declarative agents are extension to Microsoft 365 Copilot, using custom knowledge, using actions, tailored to specific scenarios, and ensure the consistency of that user experience. Now let's take a quick look. Let's analyze the key features of the declarative agents. We're going to focus on the custom knowledge and the custom actions. So custom knowledge involves the data for the agent, reasoning, and of course, shaping the responses. And the custom actions pertains to the interaction with external systems. Two different things. Now, declarative agents are used by the users in two ways. First, in context. So in this case, in my Microsoft 365 Copilot, I can use the @ symbol, and this will begin to call the specific agent from the Microsoft 365 Copilot. I also have what we call an immersive approach. This accesses the declarative agents where I can have like a one-to-one conversation with the agent. Just click on the agent, let's have a conversation. And the other one is integration, like Microsoft Graph and Microsoft 365 apps. So let's take a look at how in context works in Microsoft 365 Copilot. Here we are in Microsoft 365 Copilot. We mentioned about the in context. In context means I am here in the prompt area and I can call my agent by using the @ sign. This is in context. This motion allows me to access the agent and have a conversation. So if I choose a prompt coach, now this conversation is going to be with my prompt coach. I can change, I can close that prompt coach, and I can call a different agent. Now, immersive means I can simply call the agent from the agent list, and this conversation, this entire area, is going to be based on the conversation with my agent. So all the interaction that I have in here is going to be with the writing coach agent. And integration with Microsoft 365 apps, that means I can now have in my specific Microsoft 365 apps an integration with that agent. Now that we have seen this in context, the immersive, and the integration with the apps, let's take a look at the custom knowledge. Now, the custom knowledge includes custom instructions to be defined. So in this case, for my agent, I will define what are the instructions that I want to do, the behavior and the custom grounding to define the data sources. So if I'm going to ground my agent on a document, a website, or a SharePoint, or a location, I need to know this in advance in order to begin that process. Now, custom instructions are guidelines for my model. So this is going to include task definition, behavior guidelines, content restrictions, and of course, it's going to have the formatting rules that I need for my agent. For example, an IT support agent flow with specific instructions how to manage a support ticket will be an example of that. It provides concise, non-technical responses. That could be one of the cases. I need to make a definition of what my custom instructions are going to be. We look at the custom grounding. The custom grounding means I'm going to connect my LLM to real-world data. I did mention that Microsoft 365, when I click on work, it means it's grounded on my work data. But maybe I have a better response if I'm going to be grounded on my OneDrive or my SharePoint data. Or maybe I'm going to use Bing search as a result. So the grounding of this data dictates what are going to be the sources where this data has come from that I'm going to interact with this. This improves the context and reduces reliance on the training data for the base model. Remember when we talked about the RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, that's basically what we're doing. You are going to be working with SharePoint, with OneDrive, with my tenant, with the web. We define this capability based on that. Search configuration we mentioned here. A declarative agent can use web search as an example. Now, custom actions. Custom actions allow declarative agents to interact with external systems in real time. I want to do a custom action. Perhaps one of those actions would be go to the IT support system and bring me a condition of this ticket. Is it open? It's closed? So they can be created and integrated with agents to read and update data using API. I have an API that connects to my data source, updates the ticket, brings the result back. So my IT support ticket, for example, I can have the custom action to go in and manage that interaction, right, via this API. Very powerful. Now, when we talk about the integration of this declarative agent and the action, a declarative agent uses action instructions or custom instructions, grounding the data and, of course, the actions to respond to the user prompt. I make a request or a prompt, it will do something and will use that capability, right? The instructions that I'm telling you, how I want this data to be based on that grounding data. It performs all the checks, retrieves the data, right? It looks at the response, it compiles the response, and then will determine how it's going to be delivered to me as the user. This is going to be the critical point of that delivery. If I'm going to create a custom agent, I need to think about all of these aspects of my agent. Now, when to use a declarative agent? Let's walk through a decision criteria, a decision scenario, to help us make this determination. We are going to start up here on the starting point. The first question is going to be, do we have a scenario that we want to optimize for? If the answer is no, then use Microsoft 365 BizChat. That could be your choice, as is. Now, if yes, I want to be able to customize, the next question is, do we need to use custom language model? If the answer is yes, then we should be using a custom engine agent. No, I don't need any custom language model. In that case, the next question is, what about the grounding of your data in 365? If the answer is yes, then do we need interaction with external systems? If the answer is no, declarative agent, that is. Everything else that we would do may not be a declarative agent. For example, if I say, what about the grounding of the data? If it is not on 365, then does the graph connector already exist for that? If the answer is yes, then okay, perhaps you can use that. If you say no, I don't have a graph connector, perhaps we need to create a graph connector. In that case, you can create the graph connector and continue to leverage that for your declarative agent. If it is not, then you need to investigate other options. At the same time, when we look at the interaction with external data, if I say, yes, I do need that interaction, are you willing to create a custom action? If you are, great, we can still do a declarative agent. If you are not willing to create a custom action, then you may need to investigate other options. So this is a good example to help you make a decision criteria on what kind of agent you're going to create, or basically, how do we begin to look at our declarative agent. Now it's time for a real-time check, real-time quiz. Just as we did before, we are going to leverage Copilot, but this time we are not going to run the quiz. This is my gift to you. This is your prompt. Acting as an expert Microsoft 365 Copilot, create 3 multiple-choice questions for evaluating declarative agents, components of a declarative agent, and creating agents. Ask all questions at the same time, wait for my response, explain the correct answer briefly, and proceed to the next question. So, when you have an opportunity, run this prompt and try the answers. We have evaluated the use of the declarative agents for Microsoft 365 Copilot using criteria like scenario, orchestration, model, and data sources. This helps assess the problem-solving capability that requires effort. For our IT support team, a declarative agent is ideal. For our self-service assistant, but needs custom actions for tracking systems, for example. So now that we know how to make these decisions, it is time to get our hands dirty. We are now going to go to module number 2 on this learning path, where we are going to go step by step on creating our agents and deploying those agents in Microsoft 365. Let's take a quick 10-minute break. When we return, we are going to dive right in.